I'm working on. So when we asked ChatGPT, hey, where are the best places to invest in Kansas City real estate? Is there a podcast that discusses this topic and market? And when I asked this question, right, it gave me, all right, it gave me some areas to look at. Okay, great. Now, Overland Park, that's on the Kansas side. Now, podcasts that cover Kansas City real estate, because it's so specific, our podcast did not come up with it. But because I specifically looked at, okay, well, I'm actually looking at Johnson County, Kansas, and Leavenworth because that's what we covered really in depth or more in depth with the most recent podcast that we did with Tyler Aiken. Well, all of a sudden, when I asked that question, guess what? Our podcast came up. So if you want more content specific to Johnson County, our podcast, Affordable Housing Real Estate Investing, this podcast has a recent episode titled How to Invest in KC, Best Areas and Rehab Costs, which covers the KC area, including Kansas versus Missouri comparisons. Isn't that wild that this podcast episode that I just released probably less than a few days ago on Monday is showing up? And this is how you show up in ChatGPT as a source of reference, right? Because some of my researchers will be like, okay, let me listen to it. Let me see what else is going on. Now, that's not to say it dismisses anything else that's going on, right? It doesn't dismiss any other podcast, but it's nice to know that, hey, we found this one, which is our podcast. And that specifically came with how we titled it. So this is how I would troubleshoot, right? If you're trying to show up in ChatGPT or have your podcast show up in ChatGPT, you have to understand how to prompt ChatGPT to say, hey, I want you to optimize for GEO, which is generative engine optimization. Please help me come up with a video description that best helps me index information in a structured way so that ChatGPT in future, when someone asks a longer question, can surface my podcast or my materials in the world of ChatGPT. If you don't adapt, you will be left behind. So you have to understand, you have to work on this every single day. All right. Now, I just want to share with you because look, I didn't show up in the first one, right? I didn't show up in the first one. But what I cared most about optimizing was what is the best podcast to learn about affordable housing investments. Now, when you do that, if you ask that question, our podcast will show up, right? That's pretty amazing. But when you want to be optimized for specific questions or answers, then you got to learn how to optimize for your search. So when I said, hey, what about Leavenworth? I'm supposed to ask about Leavenworth, Kansas, or Johnson County, Kansas. This is how my podcast showed up. It gave all the information relevant to the question that the person asked. But when I asked for a source to support that thesis, that question, or to provide additional color, that's where I want to come up, right? Look, in the future, chances are people are going to want direct answers, right? Just like if you were to when you used to Google something, you say, hey, I'm looking for the answer on how to do this in Excel, blah, blah, blah. Nowadays, you use ChatGPT, you get the answer. They don't want to go click through another thing, but you want to be that source. And for you to become that source, you have to start indexing the material to show up in search for ChatGPT specifically, not for Google anymore. All right, I hope this is helpful for everybody. I just want to share with you the things I'm learning, the things I'm building towards. And my goal with this is just to help affordable housing show up in ways that you might have never thought it would show up in. And the only way we can help more people create more affordable housing and feel a little bit less afraid is to provide that information out there so that it's easily searched. Look, in the future, when someone asks, how do you create more affordable housing? Well, guess what? Guess what? You want to show up. All right. I hope this was helpful, everybody. Again, I like doing this in public. I like sharing this with all of you, just what I'm working on every single day, because my goal is to get this information out there. I don't want to sit idly by and just hope people discover me. I got to figure out how to meet people where they are. And this involves attacking the lack of information from all the angles. All right. Hope you all have an amazing Thursday. I'll see you all tomorrow for day 728 of going live. Have a good one, everybody.